Count it all joy when you encounter various trials. Hey, my name is Abe, and today we're going to look at the book of James as a whole and what to look out for when you begin to read the book of James. This channel is dedicated really to helping you study and to know your Bible, and we are looking at the book of James to kind of give an overview, because in the next couple of weeks and months we'll be looking at the book really going through it verse by verse, but also looking at the themes of its broader sense here. And so today I want to look at 5 major ideas or things that are going on in the book of James to be aware of, so that when you're reading, you notice them and go, okay, yeah, that is there. Number 1 is James seems like a very loosely structured book, or if there's even any structure to it at all. See, James is writing, and the genre he's writing in is really what we considered maybe the Jewish wisdom genre. Some of the stuff that we're writing during that time, the Second Temple Judaism, that sort of thing. During this time, there's a lot of wisdom literature written by the rabbis and such, and they would write in a way that is different than how we think and how we write. We write in a very linear fashion, 1, 2, 3, and then lock them down, and there you go. This video is structured very linearly. I've got 5 different points I'm going to make, and that's the video. This way of writing that James adopts is very circular. So he'll take up an idea, like the way you'll use your tongue, and he'll talk about it for a little bit, and he'll drop it, and he'll work on to something else, something like using your wealth, and he'll play with that one for a bit, but then he'll come back to the way we use our words, and then he'll go on, and he'll take up some other ideas here. So he's got what I would consider, and there's different ways to divide this up, but 5 different major themes to the book, and they are this. They're 5 W's. So, wholeness, wisdom, wealth, works, and words. I got this from my professor, but that's 5 W's. Wholeness, wisdom, wealth, words, and works. And so when you're reading the book of James and you've got those 5 different themes in your mind, then the book begins to make some sense. And I will argue that it actually has this really nice structure to it. But I'm not going to get into that right now. But it seems like it's very loosely structured, but it isn't. There's definitely some structure there, and he's working through that. But pay attention to those 5 major themes. Number 2 is this. A lot of people want to pit James against the writings of Paul. If you read much of the writings of Paul, particularly Galatians or Romans, you're going to notice that Paul and James, they use the same language, but are they disagreeing with one another? There's some sort of inside Christian feud happening between the two. Some are going to argue that. I wouldn't argue that. I don't think it's a very compelling case. But it's really thrown some people off. Even the reformer Martin Luther considered James to be an epistle of straw. That's how he wrote about it once. He's like, it's just straw. There's nothing really helpful to it. And the reason why he thought that way was because he is coming from a background of Roman Catholicism in that day was heavily, it was just really messed up, really. But a lot of indulgences being used in the church as far as you pay this amount of money and you're okay with God. So he saw all that and was like, why are we spending so much time about works? And so he's reading Galatians, and he finally figures out and sees that the just will live by Romans or Galatians. The just will live by faith. And he takes onto that idea, and then he reads something like James, and James comes along and says, faith without works is dead. Faith alone is not good enough. We're not justified by faith alone. And so he's like, how does this line up? Well, we'll get into that as far as the disagreements between James and Paul and how to resolve that and solve that. It's not a huge thing, but if you're just reading it and you see justification here and works here and you think they mean the same thing, then know that you're going to fall into some sort of trap, and you're going to think that they're working against each other. They're not. They're just using those words differently, and we do this all the time. Thirdly, you're going to notice that the book of James is extraordinarily practical. When you just read the book of James, there's just so much there that you can take and just go, there you go. Like if you're somebody who's teaching a Bible class and you've got James as your topic, you're golden. because people love to talk about practical things. And so James is full of practical things and practical ideas you can talk about and apply and come up with all kinds of illustrations for. And it's very easy to do that. Now, on the flip side of it too, because it's so practical and the way of Christ is so is a high calling for us, it's difficult. It's going to be super challenging as you're reading the book of James. Things like what he says about the tongue makes you never want to write a blog post or share something on social media or anything, because he doesn't have a good thing to say about the tongue. Our words, he says, it's like a fire set on by hell, he'll say. So it's very challenging. He will say things like that. And what he says about those who have wealth, very challenging. So it is great in both of those regards because it's practical and challenging. It really shows you what it means to follow Christ fully, which that whole idea of the tongue is a fire set on by hell really goes to the fourth point, in that the book of James, it's such a great book because it's practical and challenging, but it's also really engaging. He has so many great lines in that, he is like a man who is double-minded. He makes up his own word there, double-minded. And he is unstable in all his ways. He's like the surf of the sea, tossed to and about. And just some great lines that I appreciate. The tongue is a fire set on fire by hell. It's like, man, could you get any more intense about just how dangerous the tongue really is? So that what makes him really engaging. And not only just his metaphors and the similes that he's using, but also his illustrations. Like, this guy is good at illustrations. He must have learned that from somewhere else. But he really knows his illustrations. And he will use illustrations that are so powerful because me, living 2,000 years later, living across the big blue, I can pick this book up and read it and see his illustrations, go, yeah, I know exactly what that's like. I know what faith without works is dead, because it's just like whenever someone comes up to you clothed, and your brother comes up to you naked and says, I want some food, and all you have to say is, go, be warmed and be filled. I know exactly what he's talking about when he says that, because it seems so preposterous. It's so obvious that faith without works is dead when you put it that way. And so he is so engaging that way, and it's worth spending time on. Why is this so engaging? How can we use this engaging writing style to talk to other people about God? Because that's something also worth considering as well. All right, the fifth thing that we've hinted at a second ago is that he writes a lot like his brother. He is the half-brother of Jesus, being born not of God, but of Joseph and Mary. And he writes... Really, if you read the Sermon on the Mount and you read, Matthew chapter 5 through 7, and you read the book of James, and you just read them together, you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe the content isn't like word for word and verbatim, but the allusions and just the writing style, man, he knew Jesus. He knew that those sayings and such, which is interesting because he wasn't always faithful to Jesus. In fact, I don't know about you, but if your brother was the Messiah, how willing would you be to believe that? And it would take him a lot to believe that. Finally, he does believe and becomes a very big pillar in the church. But before that, he's skeptical of Jesus, and he actually makes fun of him, telling him to go up to Jerusalem, even though they're very hostile towards him in Jerusalem. But this is written by James, the brother of Jesus, and so as we're reading it, we can see him and his style being used, being developed and worked from the way Jesus would speak and write as well. And so to me, that's really cool and interesting, and to see that interplay between Jesus and James there. But James doesn't always just borrow from Jesus. He is using lines from the wisdom literature for sure. So like Proverbs very heavily. I don't know too much about Ecclesiastes and Job, but that's something I want to explore in particular to see just how embedded he is with the wisdom literature. Even Psalms, he'll say things like, he will be blessed in all that he does, the one who can tame his tongue. Well, that's really like the ending of the Psalm 1, or the middle of Psalm 1, that in all he does he prospers, the man who's planted by the waters there. So We'll look at the book of James. It's a book that's practical. It's a book that is engaging. It's a book that is challenging. It's a book that seems to contradict what Paul is saying over there. So that's actually something worthwhile. And we're going to use this book to show how you study the Bible. And well, I'm going to show you this book to show you how you can study the Bible by looking at this book. And the reason why I chose this book is because it is just so engaging and it's shorter enough to work with. I thought about one of the Gospels, but I wanted to work with something much shorter. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, be sure to subscribe to this channel as we jump into this as well. And I'm also doing another series of videos on how to study the Bible inductively, just looking at some examples and just some steps that we make, but also really applying them when we come to studying the book of James. So they'll work really together in tandem. And I'm excited to study the book of James more. I've probably taught it, I don't know. It's a book that a lot of people want to learn about. So I've probably taught it, I don't know, 5 or 6 times maybe. Maybe not so many. I've probably studied it about 3 or 4 times, teaching it as a teacher, but who knows how many times I've done it as a student or preached through it. So I will encourage you to read the book of James and to get to know the book of James and to come along with me as we open it up and see what God would have to say to us as far as what it means to be a whole and complete person. I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.